You've seen like that one world order stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where it's like the aliens are gonna come in. There's gonna be a god that's supposed to be a god.
The Antichrist.
The Antichrist.
That's actually in the book of Revelation.
Yeah, which is crazy.
There's supposed to be like a false prophet.
There was this girl at like a grocery store. She's like, oh, I'm gonna be the first one to pay for my groceries through my hand. And she goes like this, and she goes over the scanner. She goes, and it goes, beep, bing. I think in the book of Revelation said something about how you should never sell your body to do that stuff. Once you do that, you're actually like, it's
Oh,
super
that's
bad.
the mark of the beast, right?
The mark of the beast,
That's what
yeah.
they say,
The mark
yeah,
of the
yeah.
beast. So it's like that stuff, this new technology, that's all it is.
There's a lot of that's in the book of Revelation that's kind of popping up right now.
Yeah.
Especially like the fires and stuff. That's a huge one. And it's real, bro. Everything's being predicted. I really feel like culture kind of imitates or no, almost predicts real life. Like pop culture predicts real life what happens.
It's like, how would they get the message out through the kids? Like, that's the easiest way. Like,
Yeah.
Give it to me like.
Hi YouTube, thanks for tapping in. I hope you guys are feeling great and you're ready to vibe with me. We are going to be watching a truth unedited video. So be ready for a lot of truth content, a lot of information that we're going to intake, either revisit or learn about. This video is called The Antichrist is Coming. The film basically is exposing how the set and the scene is being prepared right before our eyes nowadays, and the Antichrist is being exposed, it's being revealed to us. So make sure you leave a like, turn on post notifications, subscribe, and just engage in my channel. Any engagement truly helps my channel evolve and my content to be suggested to others. So I welcome that. For now, let's just delve into it.
For anyone that pays attention to the true world that we live in, there should be a foundational understanding that knows that this true world that we live in is masked in deception and lies. There is a true reality behind all these wars and financial schemes that the majority of us will never know the actual details of, because the true power of this world lives behind the scenes in the shadows. There are puppet masters guiding this world into a satanic revolution. It's all directly in front of us, right in our faces. It's like what I just shared in the video about Diddy and TD Jakes. These revelations that are being exposed about people like this are not happening because these men are finally being exposed. It's just that evil is finally coming out of the shadows and being tolerated more and accepted. You see, there was a time when evil had to be hidden and masqueraded. We are now past this time. What was once bad is now good, and what was once good is now bad. There is an extreme amount of deception in this world, and the majority of the world is falling for it in one way or another. The majority of the world is under severe mind control, being led into acceptance of the beast. These screens that everyone is holding in their hands, they are being used to walk a majority of people right into the arms of their enemy. There are so many distractions, lies, manipulators, schemes, and agendas that are right in front of us, that if you're not girded up in the truth at this point, in the future it will be very hard to not be led into their traps. There are too many lies and liars out here. And the thing is that a majority of people in this world, they know something is wrong, but they just don't want to deal with knowing the extent to the amount of evil that is truly in this world. And the reason for that is extremely simple. It's because when you're no longer in ignorance and you have to deal with the amount of evil that is really guiding and steering this world, you then have to actually deal with the reality that there is some evil and wickedness that you may like and that you don't actually want to remove. It's like that song from Biggie that says when he dies, he wants to go to hell because he does not want to be in heaven with the goody goodies. He doesn't want to be held by the rules of Yah. That's just summarizing. But that was his view. And that is actually how a majority of people in this world feel, even if they don't actually want to recognize it. They actually love evil. They love wickedness. And they would actually love to find a way to be accepted by God while also being able to keep some of their vices. That is who the majority of people are today. And the truth is that many of them are going to get their wish because the Antichrist is coming, and he will allow that false type of worship. You see, there are many different agendas happening in this world, many different conspiracies, many different things happening all at once. the world is truly a stage, and the different scenes are leading to chaos in different parts of the world for many different reasons. The mistake many people make is that they follow what the mainstream tells them to focus on. And we all could be guilty of this because there are so many different things happening, we're just following the news cycles. Like, everyone cared about the war in Ukraine until the news didn't. Everyone cared about COVID until the news didn't. Everyone cared about the war in Israel until the news didn't. We are all being carefully guided and directed. And the thing is that if we all follow their agendas in this way, we are all going to follow them into their deceptive traps, caring about what they want us to care about and ignoring what they want us to ignore. We will feel how they want us to feel, even though deep in our hearts we know it's a lie. They even share that they know this in their movies. The thing is that, as a majority in this world, we cannot avoid this. The world is definitely going to be directed and steered by Satan. That's Bible prophecy, and we cannot change that. But it's also prophecy that there will be a righteous remnant that will be set apart and preserved. Most people don't recognize that in dealing with this world, the most important thing we can preserve after making sure our hearts and our souls are sincerely dedicated to the Most High, in order to stay set apart in this world, it's highly important that we also preserve our minds. You see, there has been a war waged against our minds, and that is what my series about the history of our mind control is all about. And there is a lot more to uncover in regards to all of that. But with all these things being exposed, and with all these agendas being unraveled right before our eyes, it's important that we all do not forget why and what is actually coming. You see, we know that a collapse of the system is coming. We know that the economic bubbles of this world that are built upon debt, they're ready to burst. We know that war, chaos, and anarchy are agendas that will be manifested in this world. We know all about this. But it is important that we all do not forget why all of this is happening. We cannot be caught into their webs and be so swayed by their agendas that we forget and do not fully understand where all this is leading. You can never forget the full reason that surrounds all these agendas, and the world wants you to. I think the truth is being masqueraded, and it is important that everyone does not forget the true agenda of what is going on here. You need to know and not forget that the Antichrist is coming. He is on the way. And if you ignore this, you will be led and steered right along with everyone else into the deceptive web that they're weaving. Let's begin. Okay, so the Antichrist, the mark of the beast. I challenge you to speak to a majority of people in this world that have been exposed to teachings of Christianity and see if they have never heard of these things. It will be very hard. Most people, even people that completely do not believe in the Bible, know of the Antichrist and the mark of the beast. Ask yourself, if there is such a large amount of people that know of these things that will happen, who is it in this world that will fall for these things when they come about? And here's the hard part. The sad but true answer to that question is that it will be many of these same people that know that is coming. The reason is because though people know of it, they don't know Yah, and they are so caught up in the lies that they are in the strong delusion and don't fully recognize it. When speaking about the Antichrist, people debate on what to call this person, because the scripture says that the Antichrist is a spirit. It says, "By this you know the spirit of Elohim." Every spirit that confesses that Yahushua the Messiah has come in the flesh is of Elohim, and every spirit that does not confess that Yahushua the Messiah has come in the flesh is not of Elohim. And this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard was coming and is now already in the world. That's 1 John chapter 4, verses 2 and 3. So yeah, when you say the Antichrist, people like to be extra technical with you and say, the Antichrist is a spirit. Yeah, I know. Whatever. Let's be clear. I don't care what you call him. Whether you call him the Antichrist, the Anti-Messiah, the Beast, the Lawless One, or whatever else name you want to refer to him, that's your prerogative. There is an agenda for the world to worship Satan in the same way that true followers of the Most High worship Yahuwah, and that will come through the worship of the Antichrist. Do not ever forget this agenda, because the world wants you distracted from this, because if you're mentally ready for it, when he actually does come, you will not be ready for the mental games that are going to be played against us. They need you to be distracted. So rule number 1, as you go into their year of 2024, do not forget that Lucifer wants to be like the Most High. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. That's Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 14. This is the conflict of the world. And remember that Satan imitates the things of the Most High. And so just as Yahuwah has his son, who is our Messiah, please know and understand that the devil has a son that he is bringing forth for the world to worship as well. This bloodline has been protected and covered for a long time, but they have told you the same story in many different ways. It goes back to the return of the king. You may not recognize just how much this world has been brainwashing you to expect and wait for this. Understand that our movies today are very much like going to church and watching your pastor give a sermon. But with these movies, they take a lot more time in developing these stories and illustrations in order to promote this theme or concept to you without you ever recognizing it and you actually being entertained by it. Do you know how many of our main movies are about this agenda of the Antichrist? And not only is it about the plot of bringing about the Antichrist, but also about defeating Yahuwah, who they call evil. Let me show you. I'll start with the biggest one because if you have seen this trilogy, you will very easily recognize the plot. Now let me just say this first. This is not a promotion of these movies. And if what I'm saying makes you go and watch these movies, I want to tell you how I watch these movies. Because I don't watch these movies, but if I do ever watch them, I do not watch them with the sound on. I very often watch movies with no sound or my finger ready to hit the mute button. And I read captions. I will never be caught in a movie theater today because there's no protection. Many of these movies put spells right in these movies, and if you sit under it while they're saying their spells, you do not know the effect that they have on you. So please take that warning. So like with this trilogy that I'm about to speak on, there was witch language and spells all in it. I would not advise watching it. But we cannot escape that when we were once in this world, we watched many of these movies and they influenced us. And so these movies I'm about to mention, they've had tremendous reach and influence. But again, they all promote the same agenda of the Antichrist and a war against evil. The first one I'm talking about is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, forget about Frodo and the ring and all that. I could make a whole video about the twisted symbology of these series. Because while they show the one-eye symbolism and him being evil, we know that the one-eye symbol represents Lucifer. But then you should recognize that Lucifer is not making these movies about defeating himself. It's very deep. Bible prophecy tells us about the war of Armageddon. And I saw the beast, the kings of the earth and their armies, gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. That's Revelation chapter 19, verse 19. In the end, the beast is bringing an army to fight against Yahusha. This is Bible prophecy. How do you think that the world will follow the beast, who's the Antichrist, the lawless one? Again, whatever you want to call him. How do you think that the world will follow this figure to this battle? This is what I'm trying to show you. It doesn't happen all at once. The world has been primed and conditioned for this for decades. So back to the Lord of the Rings. Go back to the last one, Return of the King, which won many Academy Awards. In that movie, besides the many different plots, it brought a close to the main storyline, which was the bloodline of the king being remade with a future king lying in wait, hidden by the elves until he was ready to fulfill his destiny. In part 3, he did and fought for the kingdom against evil, and he united the world. This is the story of the Antichrist. And let's also add to it that he also comes with a guide, like the character Gandalf, who is the false prophet that aids him in his journey.
He fears what you may become.
Now, let's be clear that these movies are just adaptations of the book of J.R. Tolkien, whom the world promotes as a huge Christian, and they even say that these books are Christian books. Please remember this. If I have time, I will come back to that point, because it's important. But let's go back to the mind control. Another major movie series that brings this point across is the Harry Potter franchise. Now, I have not actually watched these movies for many different reasons. This is purely a movie that promotes witchcraft, but I have read about the theme and the plot, and Harry Potter follows the same story. An important child that will later grow up to fight evil. I mean, there's also Star Wars, the same thing with Luke Skywalker. Even in the prequel with the prophecy of Anakin Skywalker turning into Darth Vader, it was all the same stuff.
I carried him, I gave birth, I raised him. I can't explain what happened.
But also, we should not forget the recent Game of Thrones series. They had everyone following this Jon Snow character who was fighting for the kingdom, who didn't really know he was truly heir to a royal bloodline. They walked us down that storyline until the end when they didn't let him become king, letting everyone down because they did not want to fulfill that feeling yet of the king coming into his kingdom. These people were playing massive games with us.
He's never been a bastard. He's the heir to the Iron Throne.
But you'll see that the subtext and all the underlying details all lead to the same theme, the same point. That's leading us to the Antichrist. Discernment is always needed. These stories are told in many different ways, one way or another, and it all goes back to the main story, which is the Arthurian legend. The same story told over and over, like Disney's The Sword in the Stone. But I'm not going to go too far here. While watching all these movies, what the world does not clearly understand is that all these agendas and all these storylines are all about the Antichrist. It is the story told over and over for generations in order to prepare the world to accept the Antichrist when his time is ready to come forth. The thing is that he is here, and they're ready to bring him forth, but the world needs to be ready for him. So let's be clear that what is coming to this world in the future is not just about oppression and death. It's not just about civil war and chaos. It's not just about economic collapse and moving into digital currencies. It's not just about the 1% at the top of the pyramid trying to get more power and control. Yes, these are all major agendas and they're major conspiracies, but they're not the main reason of why. Everyone, for the most part, has their own theories and people that they want to place responsible for what's coming. There's a lot of noise and there's a lot of confusion, and this is exactly how the devil works. And when chaos moves in, the Pepper Masters will move in with their mind control and take advantage of the thoughts that they have already placed in the majority in order for everyone to accept their coming false Messiah. And let me be clear, when he comes, the world will not see it as such. And that is because the majority have been so distracted that they do not recognize what the real agenda is. This is what I do not want for any of you. I do not want any of you to be distracted from it. What is coming in this world will all be about the Antichrist, the anti-Messiah, the beast, the lawless one that is coming. And if you do not know our true Messiah, and you do not understand his word and the promises given of him, you will fall for the agenda. I made this video 2 years back that is very important. It goes directly along with this video. Do you understand all the religions of this world? Do you understand that the whole world is waiting for a savior? They are waiting for this figure. And if you do not recognize the agendas that are being waged against us, in order for you to be steered by this figure as well, you will fall for him too. I think I may re-release this video again because of the importance. People need to recognize that the world is waiting for a savior. All these different world religions all have the same belief about a coming anointed one that will bring peace to the world. This thought of a savior coming is mainstream. There is such a void in leadership today. Everything is so polarized and political. Countries so at odds against each other. The value of money and what we consider to be money is changing by the day. So many injustices created. You see, the world is waiting for a leader to come along that has all the answers and can bring real change to this world. We saw evidence of this specifically when Obama came on the scene and became president, which is why everyone easily believed he was the Antichrist, the man of sin. Obama is not the Antichrist. In regards to Obama, they practiced a mini playbook of how they would be able to create the buy-in and acceptance for this coming false Messiah. Just like they practiced how they would distribute the mark of the beast. When the world is completely primed, their false Messiah will come with all the answers. He will fix all these wars with the nations. He will fix the lack of security the world will feel. He will fix the financial system. He will fix the race and inequality problem, until eventually people will look at him as the Son of God. It will be pure blasphemy, the likes of what we have never seen, and that says a lot. But it will be completely blasphemous because this coming Messiah will not be the Son of God, but the son of Satan, who will be cast into a lake of fire along with his false prophet and all else who followed him and bore his mark. But that is what the world is waiting for. The sad truth is that a majority of the world are either waiting for death or a false savior. That's the truth believers are going to have to come to terms with. It's sometimes a hard reality that people don't want to accept about their friends and their family. But this is what is coming to the world. And unless people start including Yahusha in their worldview and come to Father through him, this is what unfortunately awaits them. So with all that said, it is important that you recognize what's coming to this world. I've spoken a great deal about being prepared. And as I said last week, it's all about our faith and our trust in Yahuwah, because the world desires to drive us to a point of desperation so that we accept something we never would before. The first black president in the United States was not elected during a time of stability. The economic world was in collapse, and the United States was in 2 wars in the Middle East because of September 11th. The history that Obama made was because of the order that they brought on after they brought in the chaos. And they will follow the same script again. I do not set dates, but I do live with a belief in being ready. All around us, we see conflict brewing in the world. We have war in Ukraine with Russia speaking about the breakdown of the communication with the United States. We have a war in Israel and Gaza. We have a war potentially brewing in South America with Venezuela and Guyana. We have tensions with China over Taiwan. We have North Korea always speaking of war because of all the provocations from the West that is not spoken of. We have Iran gearing themselves for war. We have conflict gearing up all over the world, while we have a void of leadership in the world as well. We also have massive debt that is uncontrollable, that they keep acting as if we have made a soft landing towards. There is a massive potential for problems, and they have all created these narratives. And the saddest part of it all is that the majority of the world is asleep to all these agendas, and they will not be awakened until they are ready to be steered. And this is when we will see the Antichrist come. It's important to understand that this false Messiah will not come before the world collapses. If you go through all the prophecies that these world religions believe in, the same thing is consistent within them all. This anointed one comes to a world that is under unprecedented crisis. This is not just about a few conflicts within a few nations of the world, even if they are the most powerful. It's about a world in crisis. The whole world must be under crisis. This is the prophecy of the Antichrist. You have to view this world from a spiritual standpoint. That's the only way you could ever understand what is actually happening to this world. In order to bring about their false Messiah, they're going to be crashing the whole world, resetting the way everything works, the way everything is valued, the way governments work. They're going to change the principles behind business, moving from profit to climate sustainability, from inequalities to a complete system of socialism for the world, where everyone will be at the same level except in the metaverse. If you look at the world from spiritual eyes, you would be expecting war and collapse, a fall of empires, because these are the conditions that must be set in order for their false Messiah to arrive. They want the conflict and the disorder so he can provide the peace and the order. It's the ultimate goal when they preach their motto of order out of chaos. So if you understood their spiritual goals, then you would understand what is coming to the world. And as I've showed you in that video, it's not just about one particular world religion, but all of the world religions. And so, yes, in regards to this video, I have titled this about the coming of the Antichrist, not because he is about to appear, but I strongly believe that all of us, those who are committed to Yahuwah and being a part of his kingdom, we must prepare for the conditions to be set that will allow the Antichrist to appear and be accepted. The rest of the world will not be ready. And if you even communicated this to them right now, some might agree and act like they're on the same page, but they still do not have the spiritual eyes to see the agenda. I have been emphasizing these scriptures for a while now. It's important that you understand the strong delusion, because this is exactly what the world is under, and it is very important that you make sure that you are not. It says, "The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth that they might be saved. And for this reason, Elohim will send them strong delusion, that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness." That's found in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 9 through 12. You see, there is a lawless one coming. Again, we call him the Antichrist in our modern day. Everything in this world today is all about his appearing. The lack of leadership in the world, the great divide within politics all over the world, the lack of young leaders and the abundance of old men and old ideas, COVID, the solution, the United Nations assemblies, global citizens festivals, wars, economic collapses, climate change, cryptocurrencies, etc., etc. All these things happening in the world, too many to list and mention. All these things are put in place in order to bring about the coming of the lawless one. It is a massive world system built on lies and false foundations that were created in order to drive the world that is stuck in the strong delusion right into condemnation. All these things leading to the lawless one, as the scripture says, are according to the working of Satan, with all his power, signs, and lying wonders. Remember, Satan deceives the whole world. Why is he deceiving the whole world? In order to lead us to the coming of the lawless one, his false Messiah. And those who follow the strong delusion are those who are perishing because they did not receive the love of the truth that they might be saved. Those that follow and believe in the lie will be condemned because they did not love the truth and Yah's righteousness. And so sadly, there are many that we all know that will perish and be condemned. And so get this, the strong delusion, because everyone that is under it are following the delusion and the massive lie, they are being prepared to accept the coming Antichrist. That's what the strong delusion is all about. And you're going to see a push to Christianity or belief in Jesus, not because there is a revival in biblical belief, but because there are false apostles spreading their influence and prepping the world to follow them as they follow and accept the Antichrist. People hear about Daddy Yankee telling his 49 million followers that he believes in and follows Jesus. Little Nas X now saying he's making Christian music and speaking about Jesus. Let's not forget about the whole conversion of Kanye West just a couple of years ago. Don't forget Snoop Dogg even did a Christian album or something. There's a merging of religion, specifically with our celebrities. For instance, like with DJ Khaled, who is a Muslim, but he has the saying God did. And there are a lot of other smaller names or others who have been given less attention about their belief in Jesus and God. Do you remember how they promoted the solution to COVID for us? I just saw a commercial the other day with the old basketball heads still promoting it. They use the power of celebrity to endorse agendas. People with no discernment desperately want to recognize these celebrities as one who share their faith. They are not understanding that these people are gearing themselves up to be ones who will use their influence to declare the coming Antichrist as Jesus. These sellouts are confirmation of Scripture. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also transform themselves into ministers of righteousness, whose end will be according to their works. That's 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 13 through 15. You see, Satan transforms himself into an angel of light, and his ministers transform themselves into ministers of righteousness, even though they are false apostles and deceitful workers. You see, his ministers transform themselves into apostles of Messiah. So that means that in this world, Satan has ministers who preach and teach about Messiah, but they're actually ministers of Satan. So that does not only mean that we need to be on the lookout for the obvious devil worshippers who are against Yahusha, but also we should be on the lookout for an infiltration by Satan to bring about ministers who have transformed themselves into apostles of Christ, apostles of righteousness, but they're actually ministers of Satan. This is all a part of the strong delusion. I mean, think about it. Who's going to tame Kanye? The Antichrist will. It was at least a year ago I dealt in the subject about our Messiah's name. I said something that people took offense to, and I still stand by it. I basically said that in the tribulation period, I'm going to need a lot more from people if they're coming knocking on my door saying they believe in Jesus. Many people were taken back by it because they couldn't understand what I foresee. Be clear, they will call the Antichrist Jesus, or that he is the second coming of Jesus. They will confuse people who don't have a clue about Bible prophecy, and they will call the Antichrist Jesus. They do this all the time. I mean, ask yourself, do you think that they're going to call the Antichrist? That those who actually follow him and believe in his solutions are going to call him the Antichrist or the beast? Absolutely not. I mean, just know what Muslims believe. Muslims themselves are waiting for Jesus to come back.
What if I told you that after every prayer, we pray for the reappearance of Jesus? Us Muslims believe that he will be sent down by God alongside the Mahdi, the grandson of the Holy Prophet. They will come at a time when the world is filled with war, with corruption, with lies and injustice. And they will come to end this dark era and introduce an era of peace, of justice, of compassion and truth. This belief in their second coming is what gives me hope to fight for a better day and a better world.
So yeah, I get it. Off first glance, you hear me say that they're going to call the Antichrist Jesus, and you immediately want to disagree. But please personally ask yourself how much of your disagreement is based upon understanding and not just emotions. If Muslims believe that Jesus is coming back, if you just read their Quran, if they believe that Jesus is coming back, and this Jesus that they believe in is clearly the Antichrist, if you studied it, then it is proven that people in this world will look at the Antichrist as Jesus. I'm not saying this to be outlandish. You must study these people and their religions so you can understand what they believe in. You can understand the differences so you're not deceived. They believe Jesus is coming back, and it is not the same Messiah that we believe in. I know it's easy to be emotional and disagree. I understand that. But if you actually study these things and use discernment, this would make a lot more sense. I'm not telling you to just believe what I say. I'm telling you, if you have a problem with it, go study these things yourself. If you don't understand this world and its deceptions, you have a great risk for falling for them. When these people are looking at Jesus and they're calling the Antichrist Jesus, if you're just looking for people to call Jesus and say they believe in Jesus, you have no idea what you're doing and what you're going to be following. And so yes, that truth may be a little hard to believe right now and hard to see right now, but you need to understand what the agenda of the enemy is and what he is doing. And so for me, I want to be clear to all who follow this ministry that you must know that the Antichrist is coming. But before he comes, they are going to reset this world. They're going to drive people into desperation. That's the most important part first, desperation. The video I made last week, I need you to go back to that if fear has come upon you. There is no time for fear for any of this. Those of us who will not bow to the beast must be ready to walk in our faith boldly and strongly. And the reason I'm making this video is because it always helps and makes it easier to do when we live with proper expectations of what is to come.
We are going to leave it here, guys. There you have it, the agenda, the ushering explained. I highly do strongly believe my opinion on this film, which was incredible, by the way. My opinion is that this entity will show up and he won't look like the typical person. He'll be charming. He'll, the Antichrist. He's in a costume. He will let you know that he is going to stop wars. He's going to stop world hunger, and he's going to do all the righteous things that we need in this world, and that should be occurring in this world. He will lie to your face. Okay. That's my opinion on this film, you guys. It was incredible. I hope you had fun with me and you enjoyed it as well. Please make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe with notifications bell on, and I'll see you next time, YouTube. Take care.